Information. But even if information is not marked classified in an email, participants who know or should know that the subject matter is classified are still obligated to protect it.
That doesn't mean that if somebody has blatantly broken the law, that they are above the law. But my orientation is going to be to move forward. So, my general view when it comes to my Attorney General is he's the people's lawyer. Eric Holder's been nominated. His job is to uphold the Constitution and look after the interests of the American people, not to be swayed by my day-to-day politics.
The lead on these kinds of matters. They're the ones who conduct this investigation. They are not, they don't have political jobs. They have career jobs as law enforcement officers and as prosecutors and as investigators, and that's what their responsibility is. And that's why the President, when discussing this issue in each stage, has reiterated his commitment to this principle that any criminal investigation should be conducted independent of any sort of political interference, and that people should be treated the same way before the law, regardless of their political influence.
There was nothing marked classified on my emails, either sent or received.
Secretary Clinton said she never sent or received any classified information over her private email. Was that true? Secretary Clinton said I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time.
And I want those of you who've been with me from the beginning of this incredible journey to be the first to know that I'm with her. I am fired up, and I cannot wait to get out there and campaign for Hillary.
Of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. We are expressing to justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case.
Here in this election, I'm asking you to join me to elect Hillary Clinton as the next president of the United States.
You talk about leveling with the American people. Have you always told the truth?
I've always tried to. Always. Always.
Some people are going to call that wiggle room that you just gave yourself.
Well, no,
always tried to.
No,
I mean,
always
Jimmy Carter said, "I will never lie to you."
You know, you're asking me to say, have I ever? I don't believe I ever have. I don't believe I ever have. I don't believe I ever will. I'm going to do the best I can to level with the American people.
We came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt. We had no money when we got there, and we struggled to, piece together the resources for...
I remember landing under sniper fire.
In the speech last week, Senator Clinton was referring to her visit to Tuzla, Bosnia in 1996 as First Lady. The brutal war was over, but hostilities continued. And though the trip was exactly 12 years ago tomorrow, the memories seemed etched in Clinton's mind.
There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base.
Problem is, that's not what happened.
One who doesn't tell the truth. He doesn't seem to be bothered by the constant inherent contradiction. We bombed them for days in 1998 because Saddam Hussein threw out inspectors. We had evidence that... I think that the rules were not clarified until after I had left because it had been the practice of others.
Now, I believe the facts that have brought us to this fateful vote are not in doubt. Saddam Hussein is a tyrant who has tortured and killed his own people, even his own family members, to maintain his iron grip on power. He used chemical...
He does apparently seem to have very thin skin, and I think that those kind of attributes, that temperament, is ill-suited for someone to be our president and commander-in-chief. And
the only way that will change is if every nation represented here directly and urgently makes it clear that Russia and China will pay a price.
Because whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them.
The United States stands with Israel now and forever. And if I'm fortunate enough to be elected president, the United States will reaffirm we have a strong and enduring national interest in Israel's security, including our long-standing tradition of guaranteeing Israel's qualitative military edge. I'll increase support for Israeli rocket and missile defenses and for intelligence sharing. I'll sell Israel the most sophisticated fighter aircraft ever developed, the F-35, strongest possible missile defense system for northern Israel, which has been subjected. The United States has a national interest in freedom of navigation, respect for international law, and unimpeded lawful commerce in the South China Sea. The United States does not take sides on territorial disputes over land features in the South China Sea, but we oppose the use of force or the threat of force to advance the claims of interests. It's not helpful for there to be flotillas that try to provoke actions by entering into Israeli waters and creating a situation in which the Israelis have the right to defend themselves. There will always be times when it is necessary and just to use force. Indeed, the might of our military, the size of our economy, the influence of our diplomacy, and the creative energy of our people remain unrivaled. Should it become necessary in the future, having exhausted peaceful alternatives, to turn to military force, we will have preserved and in some cases enhanced our capacity to act. And because we've proven our commitment to diplomacy first, the world will more likely join us.
Yes, we ought to try every possible avenue we can to see if we can get them to correct their desire and goal of acquiring a nuclear weapon. At the end of the day, if we don't get it done the way the administration's working on it now, which I totally agree with, then we ought to take them out.
Secretary.
Well, we're working hard. We're working hard. Second, I will reaffirm that the Persian Gulf is a region of vital interest to the United States. I will sustain a robust military presence in the region, especially our air and naval forces. We'll keep the Strait of Hormuz open. I, too, am deeply concerned about Iranian aggression and the need to confront it. It's a ruthless, brutal regime that has the blood of Americans, many others, including its own people, on its hands.
My only question is, if you have issues with the government of Iran, why destroy the people with the current sanctions in place? It's very difficult to find medicine in Iran. Where is your sense of humanity?
And on food and other necessities, there are no sanctions. And what we do not want the people of Iran to suffer and certainly to be deprived of necessary medicines. So we hope that the Iranian people will speak out and make known their views to their own government.
Through their actions, they have lost the legitimacy to govern. The international community is speaking with one voice, and our message is unmistakable. These violations of universal rights are unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Libya could become a peaceful democracy, or it could face protracted civil war, or it could descend into chaos.
As the arms embargo and the no-fly zone has been transitioned to NATO command and control, the civilian protection mission will as well. Libya, when a leader says, spare nothing, show no mercy, and calls out Air Force attacks on his own people, that crosses a line that people in the world had decided they could not tolerate. I can't, sitting here today, predict to you exactly how it's going to play out, but we believe that Libya will have a better shot in the future if he departs and leaves power.
And of course, we would always welcome congressional support, but the president's very clear that the United States is acting in a way that is within the existing authorities available to him.
Thank you, guys.
The buck may well stop here, with the Secretary of State who allegedly instructed her diplomats to actively gather specific intelligence. The United Nations, the particular focus of what is labeled as a secret national directive sent out in the name of the State Department in July last year. It asked US staff to obtain particular details about the persons and policies of senior UN officials, including the Secretary General.
I will not comment on or confirm what are alleged to be stolen State Department cables, but I can say that the United States deeply regrets the disclosure of any information that was intended to be confidential.
So we need to move simultaneously toward a political solution to the civil war that paves the way for a new government with new leadership, and to encourage more Syrians to take on ISIS. The fact that I think Assad still believes he can crush what he considers to be an illegitimate rebellion against his authority, and characterizes everyone who opposes him as a terrorist who is supported by foreign interests. To support them, we should immediately deploy the Special Operations Force President Obama has already authorized, and be prepared to deploy more as more Syrians get into the fight. Opposition forces on the ground, with material support from the coalition, could then help create safe areas where Syrians could remain in the country rather than fleeing toward Europe. Because the goal of any no-fly zone is not only to provide safe areas for Syrians so they don't have to be fleeing or continue to be bombed by Assad, supported now by the Russians, but to get some leverage to get everybody at the table to try to create as much of a ceasefire. That to be successful, airstrikes will have to be combined with ground forces actually taking back more territory. Let's debate them on the basis of facts, not fear. Let's resist denigrating the patriotism or loyalty of those who disagree with us. And let's avoid at all costs undermining America's credibility abroad. To this end, we are working to ratify a free trade agreement with South Korea. We're pursuing a regional agreement with the nations of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and we know that that will help create new jobs. Not long ago, it was thought that business drove markets and governments drove geopolitics. Well, those two, if they ever were separate, have certainly converged.
President Obama saved the auto industry, imposed new rules on Wall Street, and provided health care to 16 million Americans.
Reinstatement of the Glass-Steagall Act, which protected our savings from speculation, and would you break up the too big to fail banks?
Well, let me tell you what I will do, because I care a lot about those issues that the big banks are not the only things we have to worry about. So if you only reinstate Glass-Steagall, you don't go after all these other institutions in what is called the shadow banking system. You know, the deck is stacked in favor of those at the top.
Must drive strong and steady income growth that lifts up families and lifts up our country. And that... So I'm going to do everything I can to try to get that deck reshuffled. So if we want to get serious about raising incomes, we have to get serious about supporting union workers.
As a shareholder and director of our company, I'm always proud of Walmart and what we do and the way we do it better than anybody else.
Clinton served for 6 years on the board of Walmart, the huge retailer criticized by many for its treatment of workers and its strident opposition to unions.
One that I believe in and will fight for is profit sharing. Hard-working Americans deserve to benefit from the record corporate earnings they help produce.
It's a major embarrassment for Democrats on the eve of their nominating convention.
The party chairperson, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, announced her resignation after leaked emails showed she and her staff actively worked to promote Hillary Clinton's campaign and looked for ways to hurt Clinton's opponent, Bernie Sanders.
There is no question but the DNC was on Secretary Clinton's side from day one. We all know that.
The deck is still stacked.
Then deal me